Hi, this is guitarist Denis Taaffe, and I'm in my home studio, and I want to welcome you to another edition of Bargain Bin Amps. And today's a very special day because it is my birthday. So, happy birthday to me, I guess. And I got a birthday gift. However, it wasn't something material. It's something I discovered. And we'll get to that later. Now, to most guitarists, when you mention the Marshall amp, right, what do most people immediately think of as the Marshall sound, right? Well, with like Slash from Guns N' Roses, popularized it. It's a distorted sound, and I mean, we're talking, all the way back to Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and on and on and on and on, right? Heavy metal bands, rock bands of all kinds use the Marshall sound to get that distorted sound, which sounds great, right? However, I think one neglected area of the Marshall sound is the clean channel. Can you get a convincing clean channel out of a Marshall amp? Now, what I have today, and I'll show it to you here, is a Marshall DSL series. So this is a tube amp, and this is actually a tube head. Here you go. There it is. I mean, that's the classic Marshall tube head right there. It's a 20 watt, 2-channel, all tube head with reverb and so on. And so I was really curious to see what the clean channel is like. I mean, the distortion channel on this DSL series, which is one of the most popular series of amps. They have the DSL40C, which is a combo version of this amp. This is the 20 for the 20 watts. But I wanted to see about the clean channel, and I guess before we get into that, let's take a look at the specs and things. Okay, now, the actual official title is the Marshall DSL20hr 20 watt tube head. Okay, so it's pretty low in wattage. It's got 2 channels, high and low power modes, speaker emulated line out, digital reverb, and effects loop. And I'll tell you, to be quite honest, the reverb on it is not all that great. It's okay, I guess. But it's kind of generic in a way. So it has 2 EL34 tubes and 3 ECC83, which are basically the equivalent of 12 AX7 preamp tubes. Then a 3-band EQ, tone shift, and resonance. Pretty typical, for what is considered a Marshall amp. Now, new price about $549, so $550, and that's not inexpensive, but for classic Marshall type amp. You know, it's to be expected. I don't know what it is on the used market. You know, you would think it'd be less, but you never know these days. Okay, so one thing I can tell you, if you're considering this amp, one, it's quite heavy, you know, for a tube head, but it has a nice handle on it, you know. But what I was really surprised about is how well built this thing is. I mean, it's solid. And the knobs, you know, you'd think they'd be flimsy feeling. Not at all. I mean, they really are solid knobs. So I was really impressed with that. And, you know, this covering, you know, the Tolex and all that, just doesn't feel cheap at all, you know. It's really, really solid. Now on the back you have a choice of one 16 ohm, right, output, or two 8 ohm cabinets. Now, as it turns out, I have a kind of a homemade 2x12 Vox cabinet, and I'll show you that here shortly. And the Vox is actually from a Vox Valvetronics amp, and basically the guts of the amp were done no good, you know. So what I did is I pulled out the guts of the amp itself because it wasn't working, you know, and I got it that way, so I pulled it out, you know. I mean, I got it for free, so couldn't complain there. But it had the speakers, which are Vox, they're 50 watt speakers, or at least the amp is 50 watts. I don't know about the speakers. So I thought, wow, that could be a pretty cool 2x12 cabinet. So I got a plug-and-play jack panel, which allows you to have a 16 ohm input, or 8 ohm, right, or 4 ohm, or 8 ohm stereo. Basically just about everything. Little plug-and-play panel. And I made a piece of wood, and I wish I had done it a little differently because it was kind of flimsy wood, you know. And wired up the speakers, and therefore had a 2x12 cabinet. And there's a space where the controls used to be, you know, which is now just empty. And I was going to put the, you know, a piece of wood there, Tolex wood covering over it. But it turns out it sounds better without it. Go figure. Now, depending on the amp, right, the Vox can sound good or it can sound really lousy. Well, to my amazement, I first hook up this Marshall head to a Fender SC112 cabinet, little Fender cabinet made for the X2. It just has one 12-inch speaker. It's an 8 ohm cabinet. And quite frankly, the Marshall DSL head sounded okay, but not very good, really. It sounded thin. It's hollow is a good word for it. So, and this is where we get to my birthday present. And that is, I then tried it with the Vox 2x12 cabinet that I had made, you know. kind of a homemade deal. And I was shocked to find the amp came alive, and so did the cabinet. It really sounded pretty good. You know, really solid and things. And, I mean, I'll show it to you here, and I'll play some examples and things. But here's what I discovered. Is that on the clean channel, okay, inherently, the Marshall clean sound, it has this kind of hollow tone to it. It's very different than a Fender type clean sound. You know, now, whether people like that sound or not, I was a little disappointed with it, quite frankly. I was like, man, I don't know about this. But here's what I did. I messed around with the EQ settings, and I discovered that if you tone down the treble, it's all in the treble, really, right? And if you take that down, not quite all the way down to the to 0, you know, but maybe 1 or 2 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock. So kind of like that way, you know, to about 3 o'clock. And when I say 3 o'clock, I don't mean like the 3 o'clock of a clock. I guess I should say the number 3, you know, on the dial, if you like, you know. So about a quarter away up, you know, like here's the middle, and so it'll be about a quarter away. And what I discovered is that hollowness kind of disappeared a little bit, you know. And it sounded much more, I don't know, more pleasing for a clean channel. So it sounded more solid. The other thing I found is the bass control, and you can boost that quite a bit, you know. It just fills out the sound, gives it more low end. And then on the mid, take that down a little bit to maybe 4, you know, so about like that, you know. And what that does is makes it a little smoother sounding. And so I was able, and then I also took the resonance and took that down. You know, it's kind of like a presence kind of control in a way. And all of a sudden I got a really nice clean sound. And that was my birthday present. That, wow, you mean this amp head with it, you know, it really fits that Vox cabinet really well, which is a big surprise to me. You know, I would have never guessed. So, I mean, you be the judge. You know, you may not like the sound. I don't know, but it worked for me, and I was quite pleased with the volume level. You know, before it started breaking up and that kind of thing. It was plenty loud, you know, on the clean channel. You know, so, and I mean, I'll hook it up here and you can hear for yourself and decide, you know. Now, why would you use a Marshall for a clean sound, right? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, the Marshall tube head is really solidly built, you know, so it's a real solid amp, you know, that you probably won't run into much trouble for, you know, as long as you pay attention to the ohms ratings, you know. You don't want to, you know, have an ohm mismatch that might damage the amp, you know. So beyond that, it also looks cool, right? It's a Marshall, for goodness sakes. And it's a different clean sound than a Fender, you know. And in fact, what I found is running it in stereo with a Fender X2 gave me a really pleasing, clean sound. So let me get this hooked up, and we'll take a listen to it. You know, and that's a real good thing because, you know, the Marshall, most amp reviews and things with Marshall, immediately they go to the gain channel, right? Because, I mean, that's what Marshall's known for, you know. But don't neglect that clean channel. It can really be nice. And in fact, you know, Jimi Hendrix, right? Early on, you know, 1967 or whatever, you know, you see him playing live, and he's playing a lot of clean stuff through the Marshall, right? Now, granted, they were Plexi, whatever, JTM 45s, I think, something like that. Okay, so I've got it hooked up here, and this is just straight through the amp here to the Vox cabinet. On the neck position, if I try the bridge, so there you get kind of a breakup you can hear. Try it with just some reverb type stuff from a pedal board. And now let's try it in stereo with another amp. And I'll use the Supro here. It does break up like a tube amp, you know. I'm actually using a Spiker Tempest, just a miscellaneous reverb setting. So as you can see, we are getting a nice clean sound. Let me turn the super down a little so we can hear the Marshall a little better. So get a real nice clean sound there. Take off the specular tempest here. There, I've got the synth pedal on. We'll just try out a couple things here. as you can hear, I mean, it kind of breaks up a little bit, you know. But I mean, it's a Marshall, it's not a Fender, you know. Sound quality wise. However, I think if you were quite serious about getting a clean sound with the Marshall, as I did with the Supros, is maybe a tube change from a 12AX7, which is kind of a high gain tube, to a 12AU7 or AT7. You know, it would lower that gain and it wouldn't break up quite as quickly. However, be very careful, because especially with the Marshall, you can get a drop in volume. You know, on the Supro, I mean, I could barely tell any difference volume-wise. You know, but I'm not sure how that Marshall circuit would work. You'd have to experiment. Anyway, you know, it's maybe not the ideal amp for clean, but you can get a pretty good sound, I think. Pretty good. You know, and I was very pleased with the Vox 212, you know, for a freebie anyway. Alright, so there you go. What I really like about the Marshall overall is how solid it is, you know. I mean, just even the knobs, the feel of the knobs, turning the knobs. You know, you'd expect a cheap kind of, you know, like on old crate amps or something, but that's not the case at all. They're very solid. So there you go. Alright, very good. See you next time.